first Abrahamic religion, Judaism, and the classification is quite harsh. And if you've read the Old Testament, you've noticed that the explanation is not always clear. So one kind of food is prohibited, but God himself doesn't necessarily prove why. But since our presentation is mostly about meat, next slide please. Watch me next slide. Ուրեմն, the classification, so you know that in Islam it's called halal. In Judaism it's called kosher. So there are foods which are considered kosher and there are foods which are not considered kosher. So in Judaism it's much more complicated than in Islam, and I'll explain why. Next slide. So only certain animals are kosher. Cows, sheep, but not pigs in Islam also. So the classification logic is this. Choose the cut. If the animal choose the cut, it is considered kosher. If it has split hooves, like two separate toes, it is also considered kosher. But animals who have one of those characteristics are not considered kosher. For example, pig has split hooves but doesn't chew cud. Camel chews cud but no split hoof. And also kosher meat needs to be killed in a specific way. In Islam we know that you need to pronounce the prayer, but any Muslim, Jew or Christian can pronounce that prayer and kill the animal. But in Judaism you have a specific person with that profession who is only designed to do that. So only certain animals are kosher. Seafood must have fins and scales, so no shrimps or lobster are allowed. No blood may be eaten. That's why the meat needs to be well prepared. Otherwise it is not considered kosher. Also, the most important thing for me, no mixing meat and milk. The commandment comes from do not boil a kid in its mother's milk, and that's why in kosher restaurants, which are widespread in our neighbor countries also, you can see that there are no things like cheeseburgers, because you can't mix cheese and meat together. So, next Abrahamic religion, Christianity. So, as you know, Christianity in its, let's say, first years was a Jewish religion. So most of the things come from the Tanakh, the Old Testament. And Jesus was Jewish and his earliest followers were too. That's why they began with the Jewish movement. But then it became more international, widespread, and became world's largest religion. So fasting became a tradition. Fasting became a key spiritual practice. Jesus fasted for 40 days in the desert. Early Christians fasted on Wednesday and Fridays. That's it. So the kosher became something non-necessary. It became something which can be interpreted otherwise. You don't necessarily need to do that. You can eat pigs. Today we can see that most of the Christians do eat pigs. And the rule from the Old Testament became secondary. The third Abrahamic religion, Islam, values the rule which is given in Tanakh, translated into Arabic, and some things are of course changed because of certain, I would say, political aspects. But in Islam it is not called kosher, it's called haram. Certain foods are haram. For example, pigs. Again, pigs are haram, but in Islam, because of modern media, we think that Islam is a dictatorship. But compared to Judaism, Islam is a liberal religion. You have freedom in terms of who kills the animal. Anyone can kill it if he or he, I guess he knows the prayer correctly, and he can be a Christian, he can be a Jew, but it's good if he's a Muslim. But in Judaism, you need to have that profession. So I would like to present the halal permissible foods. everything lawful and good that doesn't fall into the haram list. Animals must be slaughtered properly, invoking Allah's name. There are also prophetic traditions both in Judaism and in Islam, but I will not talk about it. So, pork is prohibited. Blood is also prohibited. What? Alcohol, yes, but alcohol is not meat, so I'm not getting into it. In Christianity, Jesus' blood is considered wine. It's kind of complicated. Yeah, that's it. I don't need a conclusion because there is no logical link between conclusion and my previous text. That's it.